Before starting my presentation, I want you to watch a very short video with me. And I hope you're not sensitive to sounds.
Hello. I'm okay. And you?
Oh, I'm fine, thanks a lot. Yeah, Eric, what about you?
Good.
Oh, okay, good. So guys, what about the weather in Odessa? Is it sunny today or no?
Sunny.
Perfect. Good. Oh no, it's air alarm. Okay, guys. You need to go to a safe place, get some water, and keep in touch with me, okay?
Okay.
Please send me a message after. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
So probably if we had the sound switched off, you could think that this is just a regular class as online classes in the COVID-19. But unfortunately, it's not. This is actually how the majority of lessons in Ukrainian schools are taking place right now, and it's the new reality that we cannot avoid. So instead of morning gymnastics, children now have 9 a.m. minute of silence. Instead of school bell ringing, they now have air raid sirens. And instead of see you tomorrow, children, there is please go to a bomb shelter and stay safe. Because there is no certainty where the next missile will hit, and there is no certainty if the schoolwork can be done. And there is no certainty there will be next time. My name is Oksana Matiiash, and I'm sorry, just a slide. My name is Oksana Matiiash, and I'm the CEO of an education nonprofit, Teach for Ukraine. It's part of the global network Teach for All that some of you might have heard of, because there is also a partner organization of Teach for Ukraine called Teach for Romania. The stories that I shared with you are the stories I hear every day from our children, from our teachers, from our communities. And I want to tell a few stories today. But before that, I want to tell you a couple of things about Teach for Ukraine. So before Russia launched its large-scale invasion of Ukraine, we had the community of 50 teacher leaders teaching almost 10,000 children in rural areas. I think like in Romania, every country has a context where not every child has the same access to educational opportunities. And this is what Teach for Ukraine was trying to do before. But now, everything is different. Every single child in Ukraine, every single teacher, and every single community has been affected by the war. And let me tell you how. So I want you to meet Dasha. Dasha is a 11-year-old student from Borodyanka in the Kyiv region. And she used to live a life, normal life of a 5th grader. She just started middle school last year. She got her new teachers, new friends. She had, many plans, and she also enjoyed studying. But then the war came, and Dasha's life has changed forever. So on the right side, you see Dasha in the basement. She spent almost a month in the cold and dark basement together with her family, hiding from the shelling and bombing that came to her hometown. There was no light. They could barely charge their phones. And there was also very little food. And Dasha was hungry, oftentimes. And Dasha lives not far away from you. And we're talking about the year of 2022. Dasha's still not able to go back to her hometown. And she's staying in a place where she cannot continue her education. She doesn't have access to proper internet, nor to technology, and she has no access to education. So, is there a place of sustainability when children are living in war zones and are hiding from bombing and shelling? I want you to think about that question. Now I want you to meet Yulia. Yulia is a teacher at Teach for Ukraine. She's actually a math teacher, and she's 21 years old. And Yulia is originally from Kharkiv, and Kharkiv is the second largest city in Ukraine that has also been under the constant shelling from day one of the large-scale war. And Yulia will be forever 21. Because on the 3rd of March this year, Yulia was killed by the Russian missile in her native home in her Kharkiv while she was distributing humanitarian aid to the local residents. Yulia won so many international and national math and computer science competitions. She was extraordinary, and she could choose to work for any tech giant, either inside and outside of Ukraine. But Yulia chose to be a math teacher for kids in underprivileged communities because she believed in the power of education. Now, there is a black and white photo of Yulia in the school where she used to teach. And every morning, school principal and teachers light a candle to honor Yulia's memory. So is there a place for sustainability when children are losing their teachers, their best friends, and even their second parents? I want you to think about that as well. Now let me welcome you in Borodyanka. Remember Dasha? This is her hometown. It's located in the Kyiv region, I think about 50 kilometers from the capital of Ukraine. It used to be a peaceful and a beautiful town, but it's not anymore. This is a normal classroom. You see children are being happy, you see, desks and chairs, everything, normal, right? But it was like that before the war. And now their classroom looks like this, after the school was used by the Russian soldiers as the military base. It's heavily damaged, and it's not possible to have any classes there. And in fact, in less than 3 months of the large-scale invasion, almost 2,000 educational institutions in Ukraine have been either damaged or destroyed. Just imagine. Imagine how many children have been deprived of the physical space where they would go to learn, study, develop their potential, think about their future, build plans. It's not the case for them anymore. So again, is there a place for sustainability when schools are being damaged and destroyed, when children are living under daily constant attacks, and when teachers are not capable of delivering classes? So you just heard 3 stories from Teach for Ukraine, from our student, from our teacher who got killed, and from our school that got destroyed. But there are many and many stories like that because there is no safe place in Ukraine right now. And every single Ukrainian, not only a teacher or a student, has been affected. This is just, for you to demonstrate. You see the map of Ukraine, and it's our way to demonstrate you how large is the scale of the war that I'm talking about. But even in the midst of war, there is always hope. And that's what I wanted to talk today with you as well. So despite all the challenges, despite all the risks, our teachers continue teaching. In fact, on this slide, you see our teacher, Victoria, who is a teacher of biology, and she's conducting lessons in the basement for 2 of her 11th graders. And the resilience that Victoria is demonstrating on a daily basis, I hope it will inspire you today, as it is inspiring me every day. In fact, a lot of people haven't realized that education in Ukraine still continues. When the war started, we had just 2 weeks break, and then the ministry recommended to go back to online teaching because everybody was, used to teaching online, etc. And what we also saw, that children started to be more engaged during online classes, because that's now the only way for them to be connected with their friends, with their teachers, to still feel as if they're, just normal children, and their life is still the same. Here you see children doing some exercise with their teacher in one of the metro stations in Kharkiv, where Yulia is from. I think some of these children might have spent most of the last 2 or 3 months in this bomb shelter, because metro, by the way, is considered to be one of the safest places to hide from shelling and bombing. And it's also remarkable, but I mean, even after such level of destruction, people are, going back to rebuilding schools as soon as they can. Here you see the photo of one of the schools in Irpin town. It's one of the communities located close to Kyiv that suffered the most during the temporary Russian occupation. Every single school in that town has been damaged. But, I think, and I hope that you will again be inspired, by the resilience and by the bravery of people who no matter, what, are, ready to continue working on getting back education to their children. But of course, it's important to remember that many children are still hiding right now. They don't have access nor to online classes, nor to food, to safety, or to healthcare anymore. And we are talking about this in 2022. And I'm getting close to finishing my presentation, and I just wanted to put this quote on the slide. And I do strongly believe, in what it says right now. Education is the most powerful tool we have for sustainable development. Education is at the forefront of human progression, and it empowers people and children, first of all, to sustain better lives and to work and address the most challenging problems that the humanity is facing right now. But when education is disrupted, so is sustainability. It's not possible to talk about sustainable lives when you have millions and millions of people who were forced to leave their homes. Just imagine sitting here and not being able to go back home. I still live in Ukraine, and I've been in Ukraine when the large-scale war started. And I fled my home in Kyiv in the morning of 24th of February, and I was really hoping that I would be back there in a couple of days. But I was able to go back there after 2 months. So my final thought is, in order to help Ukrainian children, Ukrainians, to reclaim their right to education and be able to think about sustainability, sustainable development, and maintaining sustainable lives, we still need to win this war. And I just wanted to invite you to consider supporting Ukraine via the newly created global fundraising platform that was just recently released under the leadership of the President of Ukraine. And it has 3 main goals. You can either choose the cause you want to support. You can choose to support the defense of Ukraine. You can choose to support medical and humanitarian aid. Or you can choose to support rebuilding Ukraine, which also involves rebuilding schools, kindergartens, universities. Because kindergartens, schools, and universities are, the core community. When there is no school, there is no reason for families to go back to, because there is no place for their children to get their education. So if you ask me now the question that I pose to you, is there sustainability in times of war? I would answer that there is always hope, but we need to work on achieving it a bit. Thank you. Do you also need to answer questions, or?
I think
Is
I
there
can.
any?
Well, thank you. It was very hopeful. That was very hopeful.
I hope so.
I hope so too. Any questions or comments or remarks from the audience at this point? I can't really see. I have 12 questions actually. I have a question about hope, because we didn't talk about this before, but each year I think of what we're missing whenever we do Future Summit, and I think this year we live in the luxury of hope. Hope is very luxurious, it's very rare, it's very expensive. How do you think Ukrainian kids have hope for the future? How do they get the hope?
You know, when the war broke, we really thought what would happen to Teach for Ukraine. If we're going to be able to continue our work, right? Because, I mean, if nobody is safe, who's going to be working, or who would like to, you know, receive education or something? But we actually we decided to ask this question and, you know, address this to our students. And what we received as a response, you know, changed our mindsets and inspired us to continue our work. They said that, you know, we hope to go back to school as soon as possible, even if it's an online school. And trust me, before they hated online school, right? Nobody wanted to attend online classes. They were hiding behind their, you know, screens, etc. But now we see a very different situation. Children are now sending us messages about, thank you so much for helping me to get back to my routine. Thank you for, you know, continuing helping me to be a child. I want to get education. I want to get into university. I want to get a profession, and I want to start paying taxes, because these taxes will then go to support rebuilding Ukraine, to support the army, and to support, you know, rebuilding schools that they've been deprived of. So I think, you know, if people are, you know, able to thrive despite such a challenge as the war, especially children, and I think children have turned out to be much more resilient than us adults, because it took me some time, you know, to adjust to reality. And I've been very inspired seeing how, you know, resilient the children are and how ready they were to volunteer and to continue their education.
Yeah, that was my follow-up question. What do you think, how can you get hope, and not just in Ukraine, but around the world, for a safer and peaceful future from the children that you know?
You know, I think it's a difficult question, right? Hope and future, these two words go together. And I think what the COVID-19 has demonstrated us, and the war in Ukraine right now, there are still many, many families and many, many children who are left behind, you know? And, you know, the question of equality, one may think that when there is war, you know, there is no such things as diversity, inclusion, or equality. And this is not right, because such things as war and as global pandemic, they show that we still have so much work to do. And I'm glad that, you know, like here today we're discussing questions about, you know, sustainable development, sustainable future. And it's not possible to achieve that if we will not be including, you know, people from different backgrounds, different societies, different nationalities, and people who, you know, and work towards expanding opportunities to those that haven't had them from the very beginning in their life journey.
A lot of us, and I'm sure quite in the room, and I know some of the people in the room have supported refugees, and donated money and clothes and you know, houses to live in, etc. You posted that the QR link. What is the most important help you think we can give from now on to Ukraine?
You know, I think I also want to thank people in Romania for meeting Ukrainians with such a welcome in your country. And I know a lot of cases of, you know, when people were accepting Ukrainians in their homes, helping financially, sending humanitarian aid to Ukraine. And I think it's one of the most important things that anyone in the room can do, right? Connecting human to human. And trust me, this is appreciated beyond everything. And you know, the QR link that I post is, some of you may think that, you know, I cannot send like thousands of dollars to Ukraine or something. Maybe my donation will be too small. But it's not small. Your donation represents you as an individual. It represents your hope for the future of Ukraine, your support to Ukrainians, and it gives us a lot of inspiration as well, seeing how supported and how welcomed we are, no matter where we are, in Ukraine or outside of Ukraine. So I really, really want to thank you for that on behalf of the Teach for Ukraine community, and I think on behalf of Ukrainians as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.